I was sitting in the passenger seat with my mom behind the wheel. We were driving up to our cottage in Multnomah County, and we saw a big, dark dog running towards us. I yelled at my mom to stop. We couldn't just do nothing.
So I was out walking Sebastian, and as I walked back to the farm, I checked my phone, and I found out that there were 5 phone calls from Sandra, and that's usually a bad sign. And so we walked up to the driveway, and I remember seeing Sandra and Conor with this great big blue dog. He was black and blue, which is why we called him Blue, I think. But what was interesting, when we looked at him, his paws were soft like velvet, and I don't think they'd ever really touched anything hard. His face was all scratched up like he'd been trying to escape, so we figured he must have escaped from somewhere. We took him into the SPCA, and they took him, and for the next 2 weeks, I talked to Sandra and Conor about this dog, because I thought there was something about this dog that we really, it was special, and I wanted to give it a chance that we could try and save this dog. So 2 weeks later, I went up to the SPCA, and I went to pick him up. And the first thing they said to me was, "We're not going to let you have him because he's too aggressive." And I said, well, if that's the case, well, I need to have him because at least it's his last chance, because if it doesn't work out, then obviously we can send him back to the SPCA. So they took me into the back, and this dog lunged at the woman who was walking with me, and as soon as he saw me, he calmed down, and he started licking my hand through the fence. And so we took him, and he became ours.
Come on, Blue. Go on, you can do it.
And he was a wonderful, most loving dog. But the problem that happened is, over the next few months, is he became very dominant and very protective of us, to the point where anybody who came to the front door, he would bark and yell and try and scratch. When I walked him, I was very concerned because he would uncontrollably lunge at people. Initially, I thought it was people on bicycles, and then it became various people. And the looks that I got from people walking by when they saw me with this big black dog were a little scary.
He was definitely a challenge. He was a dog who I think had good intentions, he loved to play. But there were times when other dogs didn't want to play with him, and he didn't understand what they were communicating, and so he would end up bullying them in an attempt to get them to play.
His behavior was becoming too aggressive for us to handle, and we had a behavioral therapist come over to the house to see what she could do to try and help him. And as she walked up the stairs, even though I was holding him, he lunged at her and he bit her through her coat. And we put him back in his crate, and we sat down and we talked, and she said, "I've been doing this for a long time. This dog is dangerous, this dog is very aggressive, and this will only get worse."
Towards the end, when he had started becoming aggressive, he, just when we were walking on leash from the car to the dog park, he would start lunging and barking at people, which was why I recommended that your parents work with a trainer, because that was really concerning behavior.
So when Blue came to us at first, we didn't have a lot of history, so we didn't know exactly how old he is, we didn't know exactly what kind of background he came from, and he was relatively new to his family, so we didn't have a lot of history. While he was here for the 2 weeks, he showed an amazing progression in his obedience. We were able to work on basic foundation obedience with really, he was quite quick about picking up all of that kind of stuff. We did, however, see some behavioral issues while he was here, the biggest of which being his propensity to escape out of anything. The separation anxiety was extreme. If he was in the vicinity of another dog, he was typically fairly calm, but if he was by himself, he would stop at nothing to get out of any confined space to get to where anyone else was. So he was able to open up a chain link fence, he could get out of crates, he could scale an 8-foot fence if he needed to. I've really never seen this level of determination in getting out of somewhere and to someone on any of the other dogs that I've worked with in the last almost 15 years. He was a very good in terms of his obedience with us. He wasn't reactive towards my husband and I, but we definitely saw some behavioral issues that were likely attributed to whatever happened to him before he came to us and before his family got him.
It's totally reasonable that because maybe for the first 6 months of Blue's life, he didn't have a lot of experiences outside of his immediate home or farm or wherever he grew up, that would cause him to behave in the way that he did. But in the end, I think he had a really good heart. He was really affectionate, and I feel really fortunate that I got to know him.
When we picked up Blue from Cor, we were so happy to see that his behavior had improved tremendously. But then, after a few weeks, it was like he'd forgotten everything. My parents were then forced to make a decision.
I love this dog with all my heart, and one of the things that I promised was I would look after him when we got him. And I couldn't let him go. I couldn't let him be part of another family. I couldn't let him hurt somebody. And so Sandra and I had this very long discussion, and we realized that there was really only one thing that we could do, and that was to put him to sleep. Because we realized that his life was never going to be normal. So I would say it was probably the saddest day in my life for a very, very long time, was taking him to the vet and taking him in, and he was wonderful. And I think he kind of knew that there was something that was going to happen. And he went into the vet, and we put him to sleep, and it was the most gentle, wonderful way of leaving a life. But it was really, really, really sad.
Socialization is key with any breed of any size, but especially with any dog that's going to be large enough to be able to take down a human or cause them any kind of harm. Socialization from day one needs to be stressed for all dogs.
Thank you so much for trying your best on Blue.
It's unfortunate when
Yeah.
things unfortunately don't go the way that we wanted them, but that's a big part of, again, our temperament testing and proper breeding so that we don't have heartbreak down the road.